here's some of our first reactions to the Ancestries in Daggerheart. The Clank.
Classic. I already love the Clank because you got robots. I feel like robots in Dungeons & Dragons has always been like a weird spot for a lot of people.
It has been, yeah.
They are embracing it in this, and I think it's so cool. They show you mod ability. They show like these are full on, like they can be whatever you want. They can be fricked up little like goblin-esque golems, or you can have a full on like Destiny looking robot.
Yeah, and it also looks like you can have different attachments on your arms. You can have a little crossbow arm or a blade arm. Your Clank, your robot can be built specifically to the purpose you want it to be.
And that's one of the things too. Speaking of, their features, purposeful design. Decide who made you and for what purpose. At character creation, choose one of your experiences that best aligns with this purpose and gain a permanent +1 bonus to it. And then also, efficient. When you take a short rest, you can choose a long rest move instead of a short rest move.
That's a little bit of foreshadowing on how long rests and short rests and rests in general are a little bit more involved and important, and using your time in them is going to be actually very important. But the Clanks are going to have an advantage in that, so I guess you'll just have to see.
That's a thumbs up for me, dog. The Dracona.
For those more familiar with D&D, this is very similar to your Dragonborn. It's kind of the direct translation.
One of the things that I'm really appreciating so far looking at this book is that they show you a bunch of different aspects where you could be way more dragon than the Dragonborns in Dungeons & Dragons were, or you could be a little bit dragon, but mostly humanoid.
Their ancestry features include scales. Your scales act as a natural protection. When you would take severe damage, you can mark a stress to mark 1 fewer hit points, so you have a generally tough skin.
There's also elemental breath. That's a classic. However, you can choose the element for your breath, such as electricity, fire, ice, whatever, and then you can use this against a target or a group of targets within very close range, treating it as an instant weapon that deals D8 magic damage. This is interesting to me because instead of now having a line or a cone, it's anything that's within reach of you, basically. Or very close range, anyway.
Exactly. Like, it's treating range a little bit more vaguely, which, like, that was kind of a weird thing. It's just like, well, if I have lightning breath, like, do I want it to kind of go out like this? Like, or does fire specifically have to do it this way? This is way
more dynamic and versatile because you're a freaking dragon. You don't have to line people up in a perfect 90-degree or 180-degree angle in order to impact them. You're like, just, all over wherever is close to you, because that's your thing.
You have a neck.
Yeah, exactly.
And one of the other things that's really, really cool about the design of these guys is, it's so much like, you can be basically a fucking full-ass dragon with hands instead. Like, it's just so cool. And another thing that I really love that breeds the creativity for me is it says, choose the element of your breath weapon, such as electricity, fire, or ice. It gives you those 3 as examples. But there's not a list for you to choose from that has all these things.
Oh, you're a green dragonborn? Guess you're spitting acid or poison or whatever. I don't remember. That game's dead to me.
It's you can do something like, I don't know, light or something more abstract like that. It's not limiting you. You can create whatever kind of character or elemental breath you want. It's awesome. The Dwarf.
This is a classic of everything fantasy. One thing that I immediately recognize as being distinct is they're making a point out of, hey, the female dwarves can have beards. Yeah. That's one thing that I feel like gets really forgotten about in a lot of people's Dungeons & Dragons or whatever. And in this one, they're like, that's kind of a thing. Like, this is like even a cultural thing, which is the immediate thing that jumps out to me looking at the first page here.
They do mention it, but it's so much more prevalent in the art. Like, they are really trying to kind of show you, hey, man, it's okay. You can do this.
Yeah.
For their ancestry features, you've got thick skin. When you take minor damage, you can mark 2 stress instead of marking a hit point.
Yeah, that's
so
cool.
Instead of directly taking damage, you can use what is called stress in this game, which kind of works sort of like spell slots, not quite, but it's a resource that you can expend. But if you have plenty of stress to spend, but not a lot of health, you can tough it out.
And then for number 2, you've got increased fortitude, spend 3 hope, increased fortitude, spend 3 hope to have incoming physical damage. A big thing about these guys, they're sturdy. It even says actually in their description that they can live up to 250 years of age and maintain their muscle mass well into later life. Which, yeah, goes to show that these are tough lads and lasses. The Elf.
The Elf Classic. One of the first things I notice as soon as I open up this book is they have a little bit of a body diversity. You always picture elves as slender, tall, that sort of thing. They got a chunky monkey who's notably probably about my size. And I love the fact that they immediately added that. And that's something you can see in a lot of the Ancestries throughout this entire book, is that they add a lot of body diversity.
Yeah, there's a lot more variety because it can feel like in some other games, not to name any, but like for instance in Dungeons & Dragons, when you think of an elf, you think of the same character kind of every time, but very much they're pushing like, do whatever you want, make a character that is unique and that you're interested in. Don't worry about the details specifically. Don't make the same thing over and over again. Try something fun. Have fun with it.
But they also have these nifty little features, such as quick reactions. You may mark a stress, which is basically a resource that you can expend similar to hit points or spell slots, to gain advantage on a reaction roll. So they're quick on their feet, quick nimble, with the reflexes.
And then sort of in a harken back to the old school style, the Celestial Trance means during a rest you can drop into a trance and to choose an additional downtime move. I'm not too familiar with what downtime actually means yet, but I like that they've got a little bit more versatility in there.
It seems like you're going to have to use your time a little bit more effectively in your rest. It's not merely, you're resting. You've got to actually think about how you're spending your time. And so as such, the elves are going to have a little bit of an advantage in that.
Yeah, they got a little extra downtime, which speaking of downtime, I'm kind of glad that they're making that change because it feels like your downtime is pretty much always like, if you're going for a long rest, it's like, okay, do we make it through the night?
Yeah.
But this is like, no, what do you want to do with your downtime? Like, what are you doing with that?
It feels...
And it gives you something to do with that.
Feels way more purposeful and thought out, definitely. We got the fairy.
The fairies, immediately you notice, are maybe a little bit less like your Tinkerbells and stuff like that, and significantly more buggy, which I'm really appreciating. They got some full-on, like, kind of a classic-looking humanoid-esque fairy right next to the picture of a giant Goliath beetle guy. Really like what they're doing with this aesthetically.
This is one thing that you find a lot in this. When it comes down to your sort of animal and people hybrids, they're like, you can pretty well be anywhere in between. In the case of the fairy, like you say, this illustration is basically a full beetle dude with like hands and feet. Whereas it's also like, yeah, you can be your sort of Tinkerbell fairy, where it's like you got the wings and you're pretty well human shaped other than that. They have a few nifty little ancestry features here, like Luckbender, once per session, which is a funny thing to have sessions as a measurement, but nonetheless, once per session, after you or a willing ally within close range make an action roll, you can spend 3 hope to re-roll the duality dice. Hope is a resource that spends a lot like, spell slots.
Or also, you got wings. They can fly now? They can fly now.
We can fly.
Anyway, you can fly. So while flying, you can mark a stress after an adversary makes an attack against you to gain a +2 bonus to your evasion against that attack. They fly around, and they're nimble at doing it. Yeah. Have you ever tried to smack a fly out of the air? It's not easy. The Fawn.
These are your sort of satyrs, or your goat folk, if you will. It's kind of nice. You can make them as goaty or as human, pretty well, as you like.
Yeah, we might mention it in all of these, but I'm really digging the fact that they show you, like, here's goat mixed with man, and man mixed with goat, and then everything in between, you can do whatever you want.
They have a couple of cool abilities. You have the Caprine Leap. You can leap anywhere within close range as though you were using normal movement, allowing you to vault obstacles, jump across gaps, and scale barriers with ease.
Yeah, cool. We also have the classic kick ability, which is when you succeed on an attack against a target within melee range, you can mark a stress, which is sort of like a resource point in the same way that sorcery points or spell slots may have been used in another game that you know about. To kick yourself off them, dealing an extra 2d6 damage, knocking yourself either knocking yourself back or the target to very close range instead of melee range.
It's pretty cool, man. I can't wait to start kicking people off of cliffs.
Noteworthy, by the way, when you succeed on an attack, we'll have to look further into the book, but I'm wondering if that's like kick as an attack when you succeed your kick attack, or if this is like a attack and then kick as well kind of thing.
I think it's attack and then kick as well, I think, but we'll have to check.
We'll get back to you on that one.
The Furbul.
The Furbul, if you follow Critical Role, is a sort of like almost cow-esque type of creature, humanoid creature. And if you know much about it, we're looking at people like Caduceus Clay and his family. These are fun. I like these a lot. They're like, respectfully, some of them are kind of like dopey looking, but I really like them. They got the big floppy ears and like the big wide nose. I really like these guys.
Yeah, and it looks like they don't actually limit you to specifically like cow either. They kind of give you, your yak or...
Yeah, there's one in here that's distinctly not a cow. It's very much a bull, which is actually a really cool idea as well. I didn't even consider, like, at first giving yourself, like, the big old horns and stuff like that.
So yeah, you can kind of have a lot of variation with what sort of cow-like animal you want to mix in here, but it's all free game.
Yeah.
So they have a few ancestry features, which I will read to you right now. The first one is Charge. When you succeed on an agility roll to move from far or very far range into melee range with one or more targets, you can mark a stress to deal 1d12 physical damage to all targets within melee range.
Yeah, you're a bull and they're the china shop.
Yeah, exactly.
And then otherwise we've also got Unshakable. When you would mark a stress, roll a d6. On a result of 6, don't mark it. So that actually is going to give you a whole lot. I mean, stress seems like it comes up quite a bit, but even just with that one ability right there, you can charge and there's like a 1 in 6 chance that it's completely free. You don't take a stress whatsoever.
Yeah.
And stress seems to come up a lot in this as well. So to be able to just shake it off, Unshakable, that's a nice touch.
It's such a cool ability to just be able to shake off a resource, exactly.
Fungrel, this is a fun one.
Yeah, these are your sort of mushroom people, your fungal folk, your fun guys.
To say that you're fine when you're not really fine.
Yeah, there's a ton of variation here on what you can do, but for the most part, everyone's going to be rocking those cool, like, wizard cap looking, that's the first thing I'm going for, man. It's going to be so cool when you make one of these.
So many kinds of fungus out there, so many wild, like, alien looking funguses out there in real life, let alone in a fantasy setting where you get to choose whatever you want. I'm excited about this. This genuinely might be one of the first ones that I make.
So we've got their ancestry features, which some of the coolest out of any in this entire book. You've got the Fungal Network. Make an instinct roll, in parentheses 12, to use your mycelial array to speak with others of your ancestry. On a success, you may communicate across any distance. You straight up can just have a psychic connection with another fungal at any distance. You just have sending forever. It's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And then you've also got Death Connection. When touching a corpse that died recently, you can mark a stress to extract one memory from the corpse related to a specific emotion or sensation of your choice. So you got kind of like a more mushroomy flavored and slightly weaker, but because it's like an ancestry feature that's innate, fair game, about communicating with the dead because you are a fungus.
It's just so cool. Like, those two in tandem are in my opinion, some of the coolest ones in this entire book.
And one other thing, spoiler alert, by the way, you can mix some of these ancestries, or you can mix any ancestry, I should say. This one looks like one of the really fun ones to just throw on another ancestry as well, like part mushroom, part anything else. I'm excited about these guys.
Am I not turtly enough for the Turtle Club?
The Galapa, or Turtlefolk.
I like these guys a lot too. So obviously with all of these, they like to give you a good blend of like, you can be more humanoid and part turtlefolk, or you can be more turtle and part human, or anywhere in between. But I really, really like what they're doing with these, especially about like how you can use your shell as like ornamental stuff or like cultural stuff. They've got pictures of people carving in like things that mean stuff to them or to their culture right into their shell. And that's not even starting to touch on like modifying, weaponizing, or armoring your shell any more than it already comes. But really cool on these guys. Yeah.
So some of the ancestry features, you've got shell. Gain a bonus to your damage thresholds equal to your proficiency. Basically, you're tougher. You've got a shell.
Yep.
It acts somewhat as kind of armor.
Yeah, they gotta hit you even harder to get through that thick old shell of yours.
Thick.
And then you've got retract. So you get to mark a stress to retract into your shell. While in your shell, you have resistance to physical damage and you have disadvantage on attack rolls. You can't move. But this to me screams like two things. Number one, obviously you're in a pinch, so you pull back in until you can get out of that pinch. But number two, cast fireball on me. I guess it says physical damage, but like it just screams like launch yourself into the trouble and then take way less damage. I think that's going to be fun.
Oh yeah, it's a real Hail Mary of kind of a thing.
Giants.
There's a couple things visually about the giants that I find incredibly distinct. One, the giants aren't as big as giants in your other tabletop games, at least as far as I can tell. In D&D terms, they're closer to like a Goliath. They're big, but they're not gigantic.
One other thing worth mentioning, they show off a wide array of like giant type creatures or folk, including things like cyclopses.
They also have such as the triclops. So you've got everywhere from cyclops to biclops to triclops. So those are all things you can sort of add visually to your character. They're trying to throw kind of everything but the kitchen sink at you there.
And one thing also worth pointing out too is, as an example in here, they like to show off the fact that they have really, really long arms. And that comes out when we start looking at the ancestry features, where one of them is reach. Treat any weapon, ability, spell, or other feature that has a melee range as though it has a very close range instead. They've got such long arms that they have to have a different... you have to change the entire mechanics of how reach works because their arms are so gigantic.
Yeah, they also have endurance. Gain an additional hit point... Gain an additional hit point slot at character creation. So you are beef.
You're big, you're tough, and you got big old arms.
You're long. You know what they say about long arms?
More hit point slots.
Don't feed him after midnight.
Goblins. Goblins are a core part of the game.
I really like that they're finally leaning... Well, I mean, I say finally as if like this is not a brand new game by people who are way cooler than the ones doing the previous ones you're thinking of. Anyway, goblins are now especially playable, not some weird twist. They're in the game, and they look like a lot of fun. One thing that I notice about these is that sort of just by design choice, some of the examples they show you look a little bit more like bats or a little bit more like mice, instead of being the kind of gross, fricked out little creatures that naturally seem like your enemy. These guys look a whole lot cuter, a whole lot more friendly, and I want to make one.
They're very agile as well when it comes down to their ancestry features. You've got sure-footed. You ignore disadvantage on agility rolls. That seems pretty simple, but pretty effective.
Yeah, you can't be slowed down, you're nimble, you're quick. Another thing you've got is danger sense, probably because those big old mouse ears I was talking about. Once per rest, mark a stress to force an adversary to re-roll an attack against you or an ally within very close range. Those big old ears are putting in the work, they can't sneak up on you.
Also, the fact that it's or an ally is so cool.
Yeah.
Like the idea that you're like, watch out! Like that's part of it. It's not just you. It's not a purely selfish ability.
Yeah.
It's something that will actually help your party as well.
Yeah, I like what they're doing with goblins in this one. I'm glad to see them enter the fray instead of being the classic, like, level 1 enemy that you stomp all over to get your first XP.
Or the thing that you were like, oh man, I really want to play a goblin, and you have to beg your DM in order to actually let you.
What about second breakfast?
Halflings.
Halflings, you know them well. They're the short kings of the entire universe. It does say very specifically their height is probably around half of
Give
a
or
regular
take
person.
half of what you would expect normally from a human being.
Visually, you know them pretty well. There's not a ton to them, although it appears that they have a little bit of the sort of pointed ear motif, but not quite as much as your elves. But they do have ancestry features, such as...
Wait, hang on a second.
Maybe I will.
Are they lucky?
I get the feeling that they are.
Let's check.
Luckbringer. If you look at that. At the start of each session as a measurement, that's kind of interesting. At the start of each session, everyone in your party gains a hope.
Interesting.
Simple, but effective.
Now, internal compass. When you roll a 1 on your hope die, you can re-roll it. What I find really interesting about this is, like, when you think of halflings, you think of luck. That's kind of baked into us at this point. But what I really like about these features is that with Luckbringer, at the start of each session, everyone in your party gains a hope. So you immediately get some, like, extra mechanical bonuses from that. And then if you are lucky, if you get lucky, when you roll a 1 on your hope die, you can re-roll it. So being lucky benefits you as well.
Humans.
Oh.
But stay tuned. Check it out. There's not much to talk about visually. You've all met humans, I'm sure.
You've probably, you know a human.
I'm willing to bet you probably know a human. I would bet money.
Let's talk about what humans in this game actually do for you.
Well, you've got your ancestry features. High stamina. Gain an additional stress slot at character creation. Stress is sort of a spendable resource that helps you use abilities and stuff like that. So the ability to be even more stressed out than the average Joe is something I can relate with.
Great, good. Lucky for us. So happy to be a human. We can be more stressed out. Anyway, there's also adaptability. When you fail a roll that utilized one of your experiences, you can mark a stress to re-roll. So they definitely leaned into like the human versatility again that you've come to know and love. They're reliable. This lets you take on some stress, which you can handle more of, to do a re-roll if it's something that you're supposed to be good in.
Versatile and effective.
Hello, Fry.
The Infernace, or Infernize?
I would call it Infernace.
Let's take a look.
These are your tiefling allegory if you're coming from D&D to Daggerheart. The first thing I notice, the art off the bat is a purple tiefling. How about that shit, hey?
Interesting.
But they are very distinct visually. The horns that you can choose from, infinite. They're just like, do whatever you want, man. You can have 4 horns, you can have 2 horns, you can have 1 horn. It doesn't matter. They're going to bend every which way. So get creative when it comes down to what you're going to do visually for these guys.
So tell me what something that a scary, spooky, demonic-looking person may have as, say, a feature.
Well, personally, if I was a scary, spooky demon person, I would have what is called Dread Visage, which you have advantage on rolls to intimidate hostile creatures.
Scary.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Also, ironically enough, you have Fearless. When you roll with your fear, you can mark 2 stress to change it into a roll with hope instead. Personally, I haven't read very far into this book yet, so I'm not entirely sure how that works. But you're scary, and you're fearless.
The Qatari.
Yes! Rejoice! We actually have, in the game, real cat girls and cat boys.
That's incredible. Yeah, there's a lot of variation too. It says you can, it makes a point to be like, you can be like full on furry, or you can just be like, yeah, I got cat ears, and everywhere in between. It's totally up to you, and I really appreciate that level of customizability. You can just have regular human feet, or you can have your straight up lion paws, and it does not stop you from being able to do whatever you want with that character. It's visually very appealing creatively.
So, what are 2 things that you think about when you think about cats?
Piss.
Okay, I like to think about their feline agility. Your first feature is you have feline instincts. When you make an agility roll, you can spend 2 hope to re-roll your hope die.
There's also retracting claws, which I really like how they did this one. Make an agility roll to scratch a target within melee range. On a success, they become temporarily vulnerable. Vulnerable is like a status effect. And the reason I like this so much is it's not like your Skyrim, like, my claws do damage. Because if you were playing this and you had claws that did, say, a D6 or something like that, but, well, my weapon does a D8. You're never going to use the claws. It's just going to be there purely aesthetically. But what this does is instead make it actually worth you doing that. You can apply a status effect that might help you or your party and then go in for the damage.
Yeah, you'll never actually like outgrow the claws that are a core part of your identity. They're always going to be viable. And also, I've been scratched by a cat before. I also was vulnerable afterwards as I'm reeling and panicking and screaming and crying.
Sounds about right.
Looks like meat's back on the menu, boy.
Orcs.
Orcs. Everyone loves them. And one thing I find that is nice that they discuss in this off the bat is the sort of colors you can work with. You're not rocking green. You're not stuck with gray.
Yeah,
They're like, yeah, purple, blue, whatever, man.
Gone are the days of being pasty, sickly, greenish, pale gray. Rejoice, for you can be blue.
There's also a lot of There's also a lot of visual. Fuck, what am I trying to say here?
Oomph. Flair.
Yeah. There's also a lot of visual flair added to tusks. It was sort of something that in D&D it was kind of for the most part like, oh, you can have your tusks, or maybe you shave them down because you're ashamed, because you're a shameful orc boy. But it's actually kind of part of the identity of orcs. You can see in the book, there's people with large ones and then smaller ones, or ones that kind of stick out a little bit more like a warthog. It's visually appealing and varied, which is a little bit of a breath of fresh air.
Speaking of tusks, they actually make a mechanical difference. One of your features is tusks. When you succeed on an attack against a target within melee range, you can spend a hope to gore the target with your tusks, dealing an extra 1d6 damage.
It's so cool. They add like orcs doing extra damage, but it's not just big muscle.
I'm big and strong.
Well, because you don't have to be big and strong.
Don't have to be
it's
big
just,
and strong.
It's part of it. But they also have sturdy, which
so they're going to be big and strong.
Exactly. When you have 1 hit point remaining, attacks against you have disadvantage. So yeah, big and strong, so to speak, but it's more just like you're a little hard to take down.
Yeah.
Even if you're a small orc, very skinny, very, very fragile, there's something about you that when it comes down to it, you can still come back, which is familiar, to say the least, but still, I think, part of orcs' identity.
Yeah, you can be a cool orc that doesn't have to be big and strong. You can be sensitive as well. And gore them with your tusks.
The ribbits, guess, they're frogs.
I'm so excited for these guys. Like, obviously, there's a whole bunch of pictures in here as well that are really, really fun and enjoyable to look at. But I just love, I like frogs, and I cannot wait to make a frog character in this game.
It's gonna be so fun to just toy around with this one. Just for anyone who's actually gonna buy the book, look at the bottom left corner. Look at this dude.
So good.
Not gonna show him,
Ooh.
but find him. You'll know exactly who I'm talking about. They immediately are like, we don't care what color you are. Think of all the different colors of frogs, and think outside the box on that. That just tells you off the bat, these guys are visually distinct. And they also have a handful of cool ancestry features.
Tell me about them.
Maybe I will. Amphibious, believe it or not. You can breathe underwater, or you can breathe and move naturally underwater. You know what? Simple, but I can think of so many instances where that's just going to be like, oh, my character is going to shine.
Yeah.
And then
They also have, would you guess it, a long tongue. Your long tongue ability means you can use your long tongue to grab onto things within close range. Mark a stress to use your tongue as a finesse close weapon that deals D12 physical damage using your proficiency. Oh boy, I can't wait to be licking my enemies and dealing hella damage with my big ol' swinging tongue. Also, I'm gonna be cute as hell doing it. The Simeia.
Simeia?
No.
It's pretty sure it's Simeia based on the word simian, but feel free to correct me even if you're wrong.
It's a monkey.
Yeah, you got your monkey folk. These guys, you can be any type of monkey folk, which is cool. You've got your sort of baboons, very colorful, very long snouts. You've got your gorilla folk, the very huge and muscly ones. But you've also
got bonobos. You've got chimps. Don't tell Joe Rogan.
You've got bonobos again, for no particular reason.
And chimps with no hair on them. Don't tell Joe Rogan.
These guys have a ton of variations just in the book alone showing you visually, which I really, really appreciate. But you're probably curious about their actual function. Here are their ancestry features. You have Natural Climber. You have advantage on agility rolls that involve balancing and climbing. So you're nimble. You're able to get up and down. Love that.
Speaking of nimble, you've got Nimble.
What?
Gain a permanent +1 bonus to your evasion at character creation. You permanently have a +1 to your evasion. Not to be reductive to monkeys everywhere, but I cannot wait to have somebody else create a pirate character, and then I'm the monkey on their shoulder. That's what my first character that's a Simeia is gonna be.
I can't wait. Now there's one more thing to talk about.
What are we gonna do? Mix them? We can't do that.
We absolutely can. And you can mix all of them. It's not like 5e where you've got your half-elf, half-orc. You can straight up mix a Simeia, a monkey person, with a Infernace, a sort of devil person, your tiefling analogy.
Yeah, that actually kind of goes hard.
You can have a Qatari mixed with a ribbit. That's a cat frog. You can just straight up do that. That's in the game.
So mechanically speaking, when you mix your ancestries, you get to blend as many of the features, visually speaking, of either one as much as you would like, because it's all about creating your own character in a unique way instead of being limited in this new game that I'm very excited about. But also, mechanically speaking, you choose the first feature of one of the classes, and then the second feature from the second one, so you get to end up with some really interesting combos that weren't in any of the other classes here. You could, for instance, be a flying turtle.
You ever think of that?
Bet you didn't.
There's some examples here. Fairy Simeia, so you're a monkey fairy. You've got the sort of turtle folk mixed with the fungrals, who are the fungus
goes so
folk.
hard. The fungus turtle, oh, it's cool.
And so you have all these combinations, and there is a little bit of balancing placed, so you can't mix the first feature of one and the first feature of the other. It was very, very intentionally made so that you can't mix the sort of attack features from both of them. But man, I feel like there's endless creativity here because there's already so many ancestries to choose from, but the ability to mix them to your heart's content, that just sends it even further.